So let's kickstart the journey today of the Logistics Town Hall. And to do that, I would like to invite Dr. Rakesh Singh, Chairman of Institute of Supply Chain Management, for a keynote address on building resilience in your logistics and warehousing policy, some themes. Dr. Rakesh Singh.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Jason. ISCM First Logistics Town Hall is an attempt to create a practicing thought leaders forum in order to deal with issues of disruptions and sustainable competitive advantages. And I thought within that basic concept, the theme that we will deal with today is how does one actually attain competitive advantages amidst a transition towards a new normal or a next normal, as people talk about. And I believe that there is a lot of things that we need to take into account while talking about competitive advantages for logistics, warehousing, and companies who wants to create logistics and warehousing as a one of the prime drivers of their competitive advantages. I think one of the significant trends that have happened in India is that we have grown naturally in your internal competitive policies. We have kept logistics and distribution and warehousing as on the peripheral, not treating them very strategically. I don't say the change is not there, but the change has been very slow. And what has happened in the process is that this change has brought about the large network of design that we have in our ecosystem, which makes supply chain planning and supply chain competitive advantages for a particular firm as well as a service provider a very difficult proposition with a lot of firefighting that happens. So I thought I will look at those three themes, which I think is critically very important, just as an introductory keynote. The first fundamental thing that I believe is that, and I've been saying this in my forums, is that are we really looking at our own basic frameworks and our own way of looking at how do we really plan our overall logistics within our own economy? And we believe that that is a very fundamental challenge. Take, for instance, a lot of research that is being done about how is India growing, how is the geographical spread of this growth is growing. And then the question comes is that are we mapping this geographical growth to our business come logistics and supply chain policies? Let me give you a snapshot of this. 500 million Indians will be in cities by 2025, according to a MGI report. Apart from 8 metros, it recognizes 42 new wave cities, followed by 10 high potential cities and 30 emerging markets, 26 tier 2 cities, 33 tier cities, and 5,000 tier 4 cities, which essentially includes the blocks. And blocks are natural hubs that happen in the rural market, which acted as a natural point of distribution. Where have they gone? Disappeared when the India is growing, where they catered 6,300, 800 villages. I think there is a natural geography which tells you that let's have our network very well defined. With Sagarmala, Bharatmala, and the inland waterways, you see that there is an element of a policy drive that has happened in the last 6 years. It happened also in the Bajpayee era when we went ahead with Golden Quadrilateral, but the Golden Quadrilateral has now been supplemented by North-South Corridor, East-West Corridor, NSDB Phase 3, and it has been then complemented by freight corridor, industrial corridors, major seaports, 12 long in the number, intermediate seaports, another 10, 13 in the number, and major cities linked with freight corridor and industrial corridor to these things. And I think we have still moved from Hyderabad to JNPT rather than look at all the coastal part of it and minimize the cost in our transportation. We don't use intermodal. We don't know inward water. There are 6 inward waterways that are actually doing amazingly well. You need to evaluate whether they fit your bill or not. But even in the East, that's there. So one of the significant challenge and theme that I think is important in the way you start thinking about next normal is just not about technology, just not about teams and social distancing. They are going to be there, but this is one fundamental things that we really is going to define the way you define the map of your supply chain, map of your logistics, and map of your this thing. The second thing that really is important is the way you start looking at technology. And as we have one panel headed by my colleague Girish on taking you into technology and data, I can say that all technology will converge towards data, and all data will have mystery converted into heuristic algorithms that give you data for planning across this geography. And as you look at this planning across the geography, and when you look at supply chain, we have a lot of companies, user companies, industrial, consumer, both. And if you start looking at it, one thing that will come to your mind, that if I define a supply chain as a flow from my end customer to channel and distributor to warehousing and logistics to manufacturing to product development and to the supplier, I will have something very interesting to see in the future. And I will have something very interesting to incorporate in my planning and policies. And I think all of us move towards SNOP. Some of the companies are moved towards IBP. 3PLs do not look at SNOP, IBP. They do something of the kind, but they don't recognize it as that big way. But what I see is very interesting in the 3PL is that it will not be enough for you to do a portfolio review, demand review, supply review, consensus and demand and supply plan, and executive sales and planning review. You need to do supplier review, you need to do customer review, there's a distribution review, and you need to do a logistics service provider review. And if you don't incorporate in your larger ecosystem, if you have a risk lying in the 150th tier of your supplier, you will never be able to recognize that. And maybe everything looks amazing, the first tier, second tier, third tier, and you say, wow, we are not disrupted by China. But as Ford found out that it is in one of the tiers, 24th, that 2% of their sourcing material were not available for 7 months, and that disrupted their supplies, and they went hither and thither in the whole process. Mapping the whole supply chain with logistics, warehousing as a prominent element of the business, demography of an organization is going to play a big role. I think there's a very interesting talk today amongst the technologists around the world, and they say that in the future of distribution and logistics, there won't be service providers. Distributors and 3PLs will be seamlessly infused into the overall digital ecosystem. And I think that's a warning and that's an opportunity. Maybe a large amount of consortiums will emerge. I'm not saying everybody will be subsumed by one big player or one big company, but consortiums that help end-to-end digitalization and mapping. And the mapping is very important because what you see where in your geography makes you resilient by understanding where the problem is and where the source of availability is. As you start doing scenario planning, your whole network of visibility through technology also source scenario A, that's single source, scenario 2, source within single option within single source, and diverse options as Resilink and Lamasoft are doing in a big way, and the companies like Infor and Blue Honor, they're also providing an amazing amount of element of understanding how do you map and how do you create consortium, a platform where you start collaborating in a seamless way, where it seems like 3PLs and 3PLs are part of your larger supply chain. And that's where I see a large amount of complaints that come either from the service provider or from the user, the distrust and not able to use them strategically. You need to use your supplier as or your distributor, as a collaborator, as a service provider, as a solution provider and problem solver. So this is the second theme I say where it is. Third, as we know, the world is going through pandemic, natural disasters. There are huge amount of floods, tsunamis. All these are outcome of natural environmental damages or imbalances. I think in the paucity of time, I would say that environment, social, and governance guidelines of the global ESG organization needs to be adopted brilliantly to become compliant on all environmental issues, including your energy consumption, and including your water consumption, including your social issues like child labor, uh, minimum wages payment, and all those issues that are important for us. I think pandemic is forcing you to look at your workforce and workplace in a very different way. Most investments in 3PLs and even industrial spaces I've been looking at is primarily because if you're ESG compliant, you get large amount of investments from across the globe. All industrial spaces investments and 3PL investments are becoming more and more conscious about ESG compliance. And I think everybody in the world has to move towards saving our environment and helping pandemics get reduced. And even if they are not the cause of pandemic, they're cause of a lot of natural disasters, which create disruptions, and take care of it. So I think there are three broader things. One, understand your local and international geography. In the international geography, India trade lanes are very, very, very wide, but they don't have depth. And that is a very, very big issue in the whole process. So one, match your geography, match your technology, map with your business with technology and partners. And third, comply with ESG to make sustainable businesses the future of world. Logistics and distribution will see a new ways to move forward. And I hope all players are able to assimilate this as a next normal, because the normal is changing. Maybe one would think return and everything will return to normal, but that's not going to be the normal. The next normal is going to be follow something which is very disruptive, and as well as that disruption makes you resilient. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. It was great insights on understanding from logistics, from geography perspective, technology, and then the overall